All right, we are live here to chat about tonight's episode of Arrow, which was episode 8. Oh my god, we're almost at mid-season, which was in episode 8 of season 7, entitled Unmasked. Dun dun dun. And I was special guest me tonight. And I'm going to show you her pretty face. This is Jessie. Jessie, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
This is Jessie Lees. I've actually had the opportunity to meet her in person. She's fantastic. And I knew when we got down to the dicey part of the season, you know what I'm talking about. When it gets to mid-season and suddenly everybody's theories and everything just goes wild, I knew she was the one I wanted to talk to. So I was like, Jessie, come talk to me. So you guys know how it goes. We start with a rating of tonight's episode on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being like low, terrible, you hated everything, 5 being like perfect, flawless, favorite episode of Arrow. Where are you? And as you guys are all arriving and typing your thoughts in the chat, I'm going to toss it right back to Jessie and let her tell you what her rating is.
So I'm gonna give it, let's say, a solid 3.5.
3.5, okay.
7.5 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we got some scraps, I guess, with Alice
being
their first episode back together. But I could have done with more, I think. And I'm kind of curious about where they're going to take this Dark Felicity storyline, because they're kind of playing it up in a way that it feels weird to me. Like it's almost forced a little bit that everyone's so appalled when she's been badass since always, as she says.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we've seen her point guns at people and fire them. We've seen her hit people with cars. She's always been someone who will do whatever she needs to do to protect her family. And so I don't think I'm surprised by Oliver's reaction. I think he probably feels a little bit, I don't know, like guilty, I guess, maybe because she was very different before. She was different 7 seasons ago. She's not anywhere near the same person she was back then. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where they're going with it. There was a good handful of like yes moments for me. But considering next week is the crossover and we're
Elseworlds,
we're kind of being like robbed of our actual mid-season finale. I kind of was expecting a little bit more, so I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think I was just thinking more things would start to get wrapped up with Oliver being out of prison and going into Elseworlds. I was like, please don't make me wait through Elseworlds for some of this to be like, just help me help you, right? But, let me see what y'all are thinking in the chat as well. Stormy gives it a 3. Bruna says hello. Lisa says 2.5. We got a 3.8 from Bruna. We got a 4 from Carrie. All right, so we got a bit of a variety there. Sometimes you guys are all on the same page. Sometimes it's a variety. Lisa agrees with Jessie, saying Felicity was never weak. Stormy agrees as well. She said, it broke my heart that Felicity would describe her past self as weak. I've never found Felicity weak. I quite agree. And I would also say, and we kind of talked about this a little last week, this isn't even a matter of like whether you see like being like a fighter in the field as being strong, or whether you being behind the computer being strong. Like I get it. Like there's a lot of sort of like reductive, stereotypical ideas of like unless you're literally punching someone in the face, you're not like strong. Felicity did literally punch someone in the face. She has pointed a machine gun at someone. Like, by any definition, even if it's like kind of a very simplistic 12-year-old boy, watching this superhero show type of definition, like, she probably beat up more people than most people. And we know that she's, done training stuff. So I don't know. I find that a little weird. She's definitely never been one of the characters who's been really afraid of violence either. She's kind of like run headlong into it. In fact, she almost tried to, if you remember the episode where she's trapped underneath the basement area and Oliver's having to pull her up and her chip stopped working, whatever, she was like willing to sacrifice herself. Like she's made some very ballsy moves here. So I'm feeling that disconnect as well. Carrie says, I'll come back for an answer, but why would Diggle and Lila need Diaz's help? I find that interesting as well. Lisa also kind of phrases this as a question. She says, the future stuff is more confusing than anything. Future stuff is also where I thought we were going to get an answer from tonight's episode, and I feel like I kind of already know the answer, but I thought we were going to hear it said. because you guys know that a lot of us think that Black Star is Oliver and Felicity's girl. Did you know that? Did you guys know that? Yeah. So like, Jesse, what do you think about that? Like, were there areas where you were expecting more answers, and what were they?
Yes. So when they revealed that the person they were going that Diggle and Lila were going to
Mhm.
see was Diaz, I literally just went, "Oh, come on." Because it's
Right.
like, why are we still just, can we be done there, please? um
Mm-hmm.
and as far as the future stuff, I think I was kind of expecting like parallel big reveals between Amiko and Maya, and so
Mm-hmm.
when we didn't get the Maya reveal, I was a little bit like, which I get, they're probably, it's a big deal if it is what we think it is, so they'll
Right.
probably draw it out a little bit. um I was concerned slightly that William didn't recognize her. None of the other
Mm-hmm.
people recognized her. Um, but I also know that in an interview, I believe Juliana Harkavy said that it's possible futures. So it doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean that it is our future, like that it's set in stone. So I'm hoping that that means that things can change, and we'll see that possibly coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I really am frustrated with how they left Oliver and Felicity at the end. Like, what does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is she saying to him in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
I did, however, appreciate the realism that we got, which I feel like has been
Mm-hmm.
lacking. Um, which might be testament to the fact that women are writing a lot more now.
Right.
Just it's it. I've been married for 7 years. I've been with the same person for 10, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes those are, that's what happens. We've had those moments where we're like, are we going to make it? Are we too different now than we
Mm-hmm.
were at the beginning to
Mm-hmm.
make this last? And I appreciate that they're actually tackling that, and I appreciated that
Right.
my very first ship was Jim and Pam from The Office back in the day. And
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated even back then as a teenager that they were realistic about some of the marital problems that they had too. And they
Yeah.
didn't shy away from it. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Oliver abandoned a person who has abandonment issues already.
Uh-huh.
And I think that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps a lot of Felicity thinking she was weak, that might have come from her feeling like she couldn't protect William. Like, she was left in this
Oh, yeah.
position where she was the only parent for him and she failed him. And so maybe she's feeling
Mm-hmm.
like she was weak and now she has to be more cutthroat and ruthless. And, we've seen
I
her. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's such a good point because we see William come up as like one of the first things that she thinks about and talks about when Oliver comes back. And it really seems to weigh on her. And when we know her history and we know she has almost to, I love her background. I find it very interesting, but she almost has multiple kinds of abandonment issues from everyone in her life, not just one. And I think that she really fears being that for someone else. And it's not that she fears people doing that to her, she expects people doing that to her, and she's constantly had to protect herself in different ways when different people have left. So when her father left, she had to sort of take care of her mother, right? And when it seems like her mother was maybe possibly distant or not necessarily like a caretaker figure for a while in her life, and she had to resort to like building this team of tough people around her, and then when the person who got her into hacktivism left, she got into like a more, like less sketchy field of career, like the whole thing. She always adapts. And so with Oliver leaving, that point of adapting is not really unexpected, and it's not unexpected the degree to which she went, because we've seen her transform her whole life over this before. I just think that I guess I'm surprised that Oliver is this surprised. And I think I'm surprised that he's this disappointed, because I don't have a kid, but if I had a kid and somebody who like I had a partner or whatever who was willing to like transform their life and break the law and like possibly go to prison to protect my kid, like that would floor me, man. So I don't know. I guess I'm not really questioning the writing of Felicity, because I think what you're pointing out of what she's saying of like, let's really talk through these issues and name them. I appreciate. I think it might be like I don't know about having it on the CW. You might have like a lot of like I don't know. You might have some audience where it's like possibly too young to really understand that, like audience that hasn't been married for many years and doesn't get that. But I don't have a problem with the writing. I guess I have a problem with the way Oliver reacted, but not in a like, I hate Oliver, why would he do that sort of way. It's just like, I feel like there might be like a deeper appreciation that he just hasn't tapped into. But I want to check in with the chat and see what we're thinking, because we've got a few more ratings. Kanisha gives it a 3.5. Amanda gives it 3 out of 5. And then a lot of people agreeing with you, Jesse. I think you've really got the squad on your side here. Marlene Miranda has a question. She says the new Green Arrow is really a girl. Ooh. Who of you all suspected that? I think a lot of you suspected that over the past couple weeks. Rengoku popped in and said, he says, I feel like the disagreements were needed. Marriage isn't supposed to be all fun and rainbows. And due to what they've been through the last few episodes, I think this was needed from a realistic point of view. And then someone here had a theory. It was a while back that Black Star may actually be Roy and Thea's daughter. Interesting. So I'm going to toss that to you, but I want like your theories just in general. So because a lot of things were left open-ended in this episode, what answers do you really want to see going forward? Like, what are you wanting to see wrapped up? What are you wanting to see explained? What are you still theorizing about? Like, we have a crossover episode, and I'm going to, in the nicest way possible, say that doesn't count. So in Real Arrow, where real things happen and people actually die, stuff matters, there's no take backsies, and sometimes we kill a villain or two. What do you want to see on that show going forward? What are your theories?
So the other day, someone pointed out the tattoo on Maya's shoulder, that it was a constellation. And that one of the stars, I started looking a little more into it because I love doing research and finding these things out. I was looking into it, and one of the stars in the constellation of her tattoo is, I think it's called Mayra or something, Mayira. And
Okay.
into that, and Mayra is the daughter of Theano and some other philosopher. And so my mind immediately went, Thea, maybe she is Thea and Roy's daughter. And I think that as much as I want her so badly to be Felicity and Oliver's daughter. And she looks so much like that would have been the perfect casting, because she looks like both of them perfectly. I think the way they left Roy out of the let's go meet Black Star might have been a little bit obvious. Like, why wasn't he there, first of all? And if he had been there, he would have given away that he knew who she was. Right. So I feel like I could see it being like Felicity and Maya being like an auntie niece relationship, possibly, which would maybe explain the way Maya was talking about Felicity. Because she did. There was a moment of like just recognition. A brief moment of recognition and grief almost when she said Felicity Smoke is dead. But it wasn't what I would expect from someone who was still close to her mom, which if Felicity was her mom and the last phone call she made was to her, like I feel like they would have still had that kind of a relationship. But so I don't know. I think I'll be I don't know if I'll be sad if it's not Felicity's daughter, but I think that the Thea and Roy daughter scenario is sounding more and more likely. So I think they almost how that goes.
Yeah, I think they were almost like they're almost kind of pushing the theory that it might be Oliver and Felicity's. Like they're kind of some of like the cast and stuff's kind of heavy-handed with that, which I love. Like by all means, if nothing else, that's just smart business sense. Come on, like tease away, it's fine. But I think they have actually combined like y'all don't hate me for saying this. Every feature from every woman who's ever been on this show on her, and the Felicity features just jump out more because they're more well defined, and I think the actress kind of looks a little like Felicity. But her hair reminds me so much of early season Thea's. Like early season Thea, when she had like the kind of like curly hair, like that looks like Thea's natural texture. So I'm like, interesting. So I'm kind of with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm definitely anxious and antsy to see what this is about. And I kind of sometimes sort of get frustrated and miss this incredible shit down this year. And it almost makes it almost more like I can't wait to, like, I'm sitting in my car right now streaming an East Coast live version of it because I need to know. Whereas last year it was kind of like, oh well, I already know what happens in this episode, so I'll just watch it tomorrow. You know, that sense of urgency, I missed it. So that's kind of, it's a double-edged sword. It's frustrating and yet also enthralling. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that I'm curious about this whole Diggle, Lila, Diaz situation. I'm not very approving of that, so we'll see how that goes. But one thing I definitely hope that they keep coming back to is they didn't outright say anything about PTSD tonight, but it was very obvious that both Felicity and Oliver were having issues with that. With Oliver in the shower, and then his really like withdrawn, like quiet, and he was very overwhelmed by the reporters and his face when they got to the gala, and then Felicity being obsessed with the security and almost like panicky about trying to get to the gun to protect herself. Like finally we're like seeing this realistically, because I really like I will never forgive them for the wheelchair storyline or Haven Rock, because they completely blew over any kind of detail that Felicity might have been suffering from PTSD. So A+ for that. Thank you for realistic mental health issues.
I think that, yeah, I strongly agree. And I think that there's something about this season where like, you have this whole ensemble team of characters, right? So not everybody's going to love everybody. That's fine. Sometimes I have just as much fun dragging Renee or Curtis as I do, like it's fine. Like, we got to have some to love, some to hate. We got to have some villains that really strike a chord with us and some villains that don't. And that's fine. But what I want to see when I'm watching shows like this is I want to just get the feeling that whoever's creating it cares about it and loves it, and not just loves this idea in their head, but loves this product and wants others to experience it, and not just wants others to think that they're great. And you see this a lot when it comes to like creating art. Is you sometimes will see these creators, writers that are constantly just going for the gotcha moment, and they don't care about the journey along the way. It's like, haha, I strung you along, but like, surprise, and it's like they're almost trying to constantly deceive you, and like not in the fun way, right? And we know when we're not being entertained in the fun way, when we're being entertained for somebody else, right? And for this season, I feel like we're being entertained in the fun way. I feel like somebody's got my hand and they're taking me on this journey, and like I'm gonna be like, oh, but like maybe I would change that, but I love this, right? But whoever's taking me on this journey is loving this journey. So that's what I love about, like, we've had a showrunner change. We have Beth Schwartz in charge, and I think that she's just done a fantastic job. I think the writers have done a fantastic job. And there's moments along the way, of course, where like because I care about the show, because I'm a fan, where I'll be like, oh, what if we did that? Let's make sure we do this. But that's because I care about the show. But I trust that the people doing this also care about the show. So I'm like, I'm good. Like, show me what you got, sis. Like, I know she and I are going to have like different opinions on some things, but we both care. And that's such a refreshing feeling, because there's been points where I'm like, oh, whoever wrote this episode is, loves this show. And then there's been points where I'm like, someone wrote hate fic about this character and put it on TV, because this is not the character I want. This is not fun. Like, they're just dragging it. So I don't love it. There's a lot going on in the chat, which I think is really fun. Sahli says he's wondering if Felicity will follow in her father's footsteps, referring to the calculator toss out in the future. Kanisha says, I want to like Dinah, but her writing is inconsistent. One scene she's anti-vigilante, the next she's giving Oliver a pep talk about being the Green Arrow. I kind of agree, and I think she is being used in the way that sometimes characters are used on Arrow, where it's just to fill a plot point, and it's like, oh, but wait, like, you fill in the blank there, and it's because we're interested, and that's a good thing. It's like, oh, we like this character, we're actually interested in their progression. So when you find yourself making those, like, questions about like, oh, but I thought she was this and now she's that, at least the sign is that like you want to know the answer. Because when you have characters that are just all over the place and you're like, I don't know how they got to point A from point B, but I also don't care. That's when you know like a character's not connecting with you. So they, it's a superhero show, and there's going to be those points where they just sort of like sweep something under the rug for like plot reasons or because like we got to catch the villain. But like, at least if you're asking those questions, it's kind of a good sign about a character almost. What do you think? Are there any characters that you have like cons about right now?
I think that I've kind of been done with Curtis for a few seasons now. Like, I don't know. I struggled with him when he started trying to like be a Felicity replacement. Like they started dumbing her down so that he could have skills. And I don't know, he hasn't bothered me that much this season. And I don't know why that is necessarily. I think maybe because Diaz has bothered me so much this season, so my attention has been elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree with what you're saying about Dinah being a little bit inconsistent. And yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. And I think it was interesting, the dynamic between Renee and Dinah at the beginning of the season, where they both wanted to honor Oliver's sacrifice in completely different ways. Like she wanted to be like, listen, he gave himself up for us so we could be safe and be out here. So let's follow the rules and not get in trouble. Whereas Renee was like, he gave himself up for the good of the city. Like, let's fight for him. So I'm hoping they do address the fact that Oliver went to prison because of
it's literally, you could say it, Jesse, it's literally their fault. They literally made terrible decisions and constantly disrespected Oliver and the Queen family, and then Oliver left his family to go to jail theoretically permanently for them, and they proceeded to, you're putting it very nicely, honor his sacrifice, but like, did they really, when they weren't really doing the literal exact one thing he asked the FBI and them to do? Like, it's just like,
no. And the way that they took credit for catching Diaz when Felicity was
oh my god,
for episode after episode. So I mean, and I'm wondering if maybe the way Oliver reacted tonight was because he doesn't know that was going on while he was gone. Like, she didn't tell him, like, by the way, everyone was absolute trash and did nothing to help me, which is why I had to go to Laurel and Anatoly of all people. Because I feel like if he knew that not even like Dig was on her side, then he would maybe have a little bit of a different understanding. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, because they have addressed a lot of issues that old Arrow would have left unaddressed. And so I'm hoping that means that in the next part of the season, we're going to get some talks about what went down there. But yeah, I think that, I mean, I remember in the beginning when we first got NTA, I was not a huge fan. And then I met Rick and Juliana, and that I think changed a lot of my view on the characters. It made me want to like them more, and so I became a little more invested. But I do feel like the inconsistencies in the writing of them has been troublesome at the least. So I'm hoping that they can turn that around for me. I don't know. I'm just
we root for better because we care about the characters. When you have someone like, I'll give you an example. So one of the characters who's been on this show more than almost anybody except a regular is Bethany Snow. And when I say that name, nobody knows who I'm talking about, but it's the reporter who you always see on TV. So you can have characters that are on there a ton. Like, she's been on there more than Malcolm Merlin or Sarah Lance or like any of these. But you just never make the connection. And characters like that are necessary. That's fantastic. Like, journalism, great. Fantastic, but we don't connect, right? So we're not like, that was unrealistic that this week Bethany Snow said this, and then later she was giving like, we just never make that connection. So when we are saying like, oh, like, I wish that Dinah had consistent writing, or I wish that this woman or that guy or this person, you know, had consistent writing. It's like, at least we know their name. You know what I mean? At least you're sort of caring about their storyline. Because I've certainly found myself at points in this story where it's just like certain names will like Curtis, right? Completely slip my mind. And I could go an hour talking about this show and never think of that and not use his name, you know, and that's when characters are in the danger zone, right? And I think that another example is going to be Siren. Now that they've sort of started to redeem her, suddenly I'm like, wait, I never even remember she's there. What's the purpose that she serves? Whereas when she was evil, it was like she was different. You know, she was, whose side was she going to be on? Who was she going to kill? And that was more interesting to me. So I know I've kept you all for exactly 4 minutes overtime. However, I think we've had some really great discussion. The chat is very active as well. Rengoku says, I don't blame Dig. He just put the city's safety over capturing Diaz by going for the device, whereas a lot of people above Rengoku definitely blame Dig and are agreeing with you that they're looking forward to Oliver finding out that his supposed brother did not back up his wife in any way, shape, or form, almost. And yeah, I think I'm going to use that as what I'm looking forward to as well. I just want to see what happens when if Oliver finds out what actually happened when he was gone. Because right now he is spending most of his time with Felicity. Can't complain. I would too. And he's seeing the change in her, but I want him to really understand why she made that change. And Felicity, you know, like she's a real one. She's not out here throwing anybody under the bus. But at some point, I would like to see Oliver find out. Now, Jesse, I love hearing your thoughts on everything. And it sounds like everybody in the chat did too, because you got a lot of people agreeing with you here. If they want to chat with you more about Arrow or about anything, where can they find you?
I am on Twitter. I also have an Instagram. I have a feeling most of you probably know me because of my daughter. Mini Felicity is quite well known and loved in the fandom. And so if you want to see cute pictures of my kid and my dog Archer, Instagram would be the place to follow me. My @ there is the same as it on Twitter. So JESILEIGHS. But yeah, Twitter is kind of my fandom zone, so to speak. So that's where you can find me. And yeah, I had so much fun. This was a great time. Thank you for having me.
Yes. This was super fun. And Jessie's information is also in the description down below for her Twitter. It is very true. She's got a very cute daughter who looks very much like Mr. Oliver and Mrs. Felicity as well. And if you want to find cute pictures of that and Jessie's cool thoughts on Arrow and everything, find that down below. And thank you all for joining me. This was really fun. I'm enjoying a really good positive discussion, because next week we're going to be discussing the crossover, and I'm not saying it won't be a positive discussion. I'm just saying you might see more salty Cammy than you would normally see. We'll talk. We'll be great though. We'll get through it together. Thank you, Jessie, so much for joining me. You guys can say bye to her pretty face. She joined on camera and I was like, you're so pretty. Like, I've literally seen her in person and I was still like, you're so pretty.
Aw, thank you. You're so sweet.
Aw, thanks. Well, I will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.